back with another episode of the How's the Ground Game podcast. I'm Damoon here with Birdman, joining in via satellite in Vero Beach. Nice and sunny down there, it looks like. Palm trees in the back.
Palm trees swaying in the breeze. What do we got? 82 degrees. A very brisk 82 down here. I think I just looked on the interwebs and it's snowing in New York.
Yes. Well, we had a warm day of 38 today, which was a nice change of pace.
Nice change of pace, but what did I? There's a polar vortex or something coming towards you. Some kind of made up name.
Yeah, apparently some of the warm air got into the Arctic and it's pushing out the cold air, which is supposed to come down here. I don't know.
All made up stuff. I don't believe any of it. It's cold. That's all you need to know.
We'll
Doesn't need to be a polar vortex.
Yeah, exactly.
What was it last year? The Canadian Dome ice cap or something. Some ridiculous thing.
You got to come up with a good name. It's just marketing.
Yeah, and as soon as you come up with a good names, then you got to come up with theme music for it too.
That's right.
So the polar vortex is going to have a theme song soon.
I got guys in the gym working on theme music for the show.
Perfect.
So now that I think of it, we should have theme music for techniques in jiu-jitsu.
Theme music for everything.
That's right.
Every time I say the F word, there should be some kind of jingle.
A little goose honks or something. I don't know.
No, we need a jingle, something happy.
How's everything going with the wash and fold?
Wash and fold is kicking it. We had some big classes this week.
Yeah.
Mats we don't have the biggest mats, but we're getting there. And I think I had 15 or 16 the other night, which is a lot.
Do you like teaching a bigger class or a smaller class?
I tell you what, I always used to like teaching a smaller class better, but now that I'm running things a little different, bigger classes are fine.
What's the difference between now and before?
I just tell people to shut the fuck up and listen.
You don't got to deal with like the authority aspect of it. Yeah.
They're not allowed to ask questions until after they try the technique.
Yeah.
And they know that we could work on the same technique all week.
Right.
And we'll just go deeper and deeper into it. So they're like more patient, almost like watching a long movie because they want to see it evolve. Like they always know, I'm showing the simplest version first and then we're going to keep building on it.
And they're not so pressured to get everything right the first time.
They're not racing to get to the end. They want to enjoy the whole process of hearing when I started doing this, or who showed me that, or where I was when I learned this, or what belt was I when I started thinking about this. So it's there's a story to the technique that's behind it the whole time. And the story is evolving like the technique.
Right.
And they like it and they're patient and they're like, okay. And I'm like, you're not going to learn this today and just be zipping through it and never have to think about it again. That's not how jiu-jitsu works. We're going to explain a simple mechanism and then take the next bunch of classes and explain in much bigger depth of how this works. So then on Friday we drill under full pressure.
Explain that. What does that mean?
Thunderdome. So we were bottom of side control. We were working all our different body position grips, arm position, bridging, footwork, hip escapes, double hip escapes, triple hip escapes. Okay. Now we're going to put pressure on you. We've been drilling it all week. Now you're doing it. You're alive. Your only goal is to connect your inside shin to frame like a seatbelt.
Yeah.
Right. Not even collect close guard. You just got to get the frame on the body. And the other person's job is to just smash you. There's no mounts. There's no north-south. There's no knee on belly. You're just smashing them with head and arm. Very specific
training.
Yeah. And then it's like, well, how'd you do? Well, I used too much strength. I gassed out because I don't know how to breathe. Okay, these are things we can fix. Right?
Yeah.
But once then you realize, everybody realizes, hey, we need to drill this more. So we work all week, and then Friday is what I call Thunderdome, because the kids love when I call it Thunderdome. They think it's like this big giant thing. It's just drilling with pressure.
That's good.
Yeah. So I find that everybody's very patient with letting it develop. And, okay, we're working towards something. It's like, okay, I know this already. Show me the flying heel hook. You know, it's
Does this question ever come up? It's a question I always think about under these circumstances, especially when we're pressure testing something. There's a question that always comes to mind for me is how do I know the difference between making this technique work in a live setting versus not overcommitting to the technique because it's already been shut down and taking a fork in the road, if that makes sense. Because sometimes we think it's not working, we take the fork too early.
yes,
Sometimes we're overcommitting and the door is shut, buddy. It's easier to just on it, right?
Yeah, that's not a topic for white belts.
No, that's
yeah, that's a topic for purple and some purples and higher. We'll start to get that appreciated, and it's mat time. It's a feel. I mean, when you hit the wall,
right,
and it's not there. All right. I can't explain what that is to anybody. Just like I don't think you can.
No,
you have to feel it or you don't feel it. I can't teach you that. So you may bail early, you may stay at the party too long. I don't know. But that's something that comes from mat time, from doing it, from trying it repeatedly with all different people and just, kind of owning it and making the technique your own. You just can't wait for it to come. You have to go live from that position, get a partner and say, okay, I just want to be in the bottom of side control for like the next month and just do whatever you do your best. And I'll say when we reset, and then let that person do what they want to do.
Right.
But I love doing that. It's like, when do we reset? I'll tell you when I want to reset. But I don't ever want to reset because I just want to be hammered and find out where the holes will appear. You can't open doors if you don't know where the doors are. It's probably what you're getting at, right?
Yeah. Well, there's a follow-up question I had to that. It's sort of related. We're going to get into a topic in a minute, but have you had these moments where you roll with someone and they show you a technique and you don't necessarily have to get caught with it, but they show you a hint of something. Maybe there's a guillotine or a arm bar or a darts that you never thought of would be in a certain place.
Yeah.
Like, oh, when I use my regular side control escape or mount escape or my guard pass, I am susceptible to that. And then you ever had to just kind of scratch trash what you got, and okay, if
I've never trashed it, but I've just updated it. Right? Okay, that's going to happen. So now I got to reverse engineer back from the problem to where I'm setting it up from and just figure out how to not let that happen. I actually love when that happens.
And because now something else exists, and now you got to know, okay, how do I keep all the ingredients I have and make an adjustment to block that while still getting everything else I need done.
Yeah, but like when you do something on like a white belt and they do something that's completely wrong, no one else on the planet would even attempt this. But it's like, wait a minute.
It exists.
It exists.
It exists.
Yeah, what if, some kid from the, mountains of Brazil is thinking about this same thing and he turns it into a groundbreaking technique.
Right.
Right? I got to be ahead of if something exists, then there's someone who can make that, their own.
Yeah.
So anytime if I roll with people and like, you're not going to get much of a roll, I don't know what I'm doing. It's like, that's exactly what I need today. I need you to do things that I've never seen before. And I'm not going to get that rolling with a brown belt or black belt.
Right.
Right. I get that with the guy who's there for 4 weeks and just tries something absolutely crazy because he's in panic mode.
Right.
Like, okay, that exists. So now I have to think about that.
Right.
But yeah, I love when that happens.
It's a constant updating of the technique, of the strategy, of how things link together.
And you make that little update, it could make the entire thing better, even if the update doesn't get used. Right? Oh, wow, if I just shift my hip a little earlier or I wait a little longer to move, it's, you'll always find gold in there. I always have.
Okay. It's good. It's good food for thought, especially for the upper belts as we're spending our time on the mat.
Yes.
Very
or
cool.
Are we just saying this to confuse you? All right, Damoon, give it to me.
What's the topic?
I know what you're thinking about.
Today I wanted to discuss wrestling. I think wrestling. I think in the last few years, Jiu-Jitsu's relationship with wrestling has changed a lot. I think there was a time when people thought that jiu-jitsu was the ultimate answer to wrestling, and then I think people started feeling that wrestling completely dominates jiu-jitsu, and I think we're starting to see people start trying to combine the two more and more, right?
They coexist
They coexist.
on the mats, and I think each one is just as important as the other.
Absolutely. And just wanted to discuss a little bit of what we can learn from wrestling and kind of some of the, maybe if you're a wrestler coming into jiu-jitsu or if you're a jiu-jitsu practitioner who's looking at wrestling, what are some of the things you don't want to take away from wrestling? Because it is a different sport. There is a different mindset. I will say, I don't like separating grappling. Grappling is grappling. It's like playing soccer. Sometimes you're playing a full game. Sometimes you're looking to juggle the ball. Sometimes you're just passing it around. It's the same. You're still kicking the ball. You're still moving a human body. You just have a different objective, right?
Yes, absolutely.
So let's just start with that. The objective in wrestling, first of all, we have a different time format.
Thank you.
Which the time format changes how we play the sport. Wrestling is generally 2 or 3 minutes split into different periods. Whereas with jiu-jitsu, you have like a minimum of 5 minutes all in one go up to 10, 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
So the pacing is going to be very different between the two. In wrestling, we care about getting pinned, whereas in jiu-jitsu, we don't mind playing off our back. So just the dynamics of where our positioning ends up being a little different, and that leads to different priorities, right?
Yeah. See, I was completely off with this when you told me this. Okay. What I thought was completely different.
What did you think when I said?
Well, I thought, okay, I'd have to break this up into categories.
Okay.
I'd have to break it up into level adjustment, hip engagement, and grips. Like I was thinking like more the mechanics of wrestling versus the mechanics of jiu-jitsu, not necessarily the vocabulary, the principles, the rules, or any of that. I was thinking like on the more in terms like what wrestling do I put into my jiu-jitsu and where and why? That's what I was thinking.
So I think I was getting to, I think the two are related. So like we can talk about that.
Absolutely, they are.
When I discuss like takedowns, if you are a pure wrestler coming in with wrestling technique for takedowns, right? You're generally going to have a lower level than a traditional jiu-jitsu or judo practitioner, right? But that's also because you don't have to worry about someone grabbing your head and choking you. So as soon as we change the objective, kind of like how the techniques fit together, how the mechanics, the angle, level, all these things kind of change. And that's kind of like the broader discussion. There's some wrestling techniques which are really powerful.
Yes.
Right? But maybe they're not as energy efficient as what we need in jiu-jitsu, for instance, right?
That's exactly it.
Because even if it's like the same, we're working with two bodies moving around, sometimes it's just not the same objective.
If you were in my guard,
yeah,
I'm on the bottom, you're on top, what wrestling would you use? And then I'll tell you what wrestling I would use.
Oh, that's a good question. Wait, what wrestling would I use for good jiu-jitsu, right?
For good, what elements, what mechanics, what principles, anything. What if you could take anything from jiu-jitsu or from wrestling and use it in a guard pass? What would it be?
So I think one thing that wrestlers are really good at, and they're taught, is their posture in their stance. Generally, their hips are underneath them. They don't. One of the things you're taught very early is not to lean too far forward with your head because the head gets pulled down. So
chin over the knee, right? Chin over
the knee, and the hips forward underneath, right?
Yes.
So shoulder, knee, and foot are generally in a line.
Yes.
That's something I don't think we verbalize a lot in jiu-jitsu. Good posture generally means like head up, like a stiff upper body. Does it? But I think wrestlers generally have a much better.
Let's broaden that explanation. Instead of just saying posture, how about alignment?
Alignment, yeah.
Right? That would be a better way to describe that. Your alignment, your vertical alignment.
Yeah. Yeah. I do think that's something that we can take from wrestling.
Absolutely.
The alignment. I think using the hips, especially
Absolutely.
When you learn to sprawl in wrestling, you learn to put your hips forward and your body back and pressure with the hips.
Absolutely.
I don't think that's something in jiu-jitsu people have an appreciation for immediately the same way.
Yep.
Even in close guard, doing like sprawling on someone's hips can, open sometimes once there's like a little crack if you want to kill a leg, if you want to lay
Well,
on
it makes people think at least.
Yeah.
Right on the bottom, you have to react.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What are some things that you think?
Well, the only thing I would take would be grips from the bottom.
Okay.
Right? 2-on-1.
Yeah.
The dirty Russian.
Yes.
Right? I use that all the time from the guard. I can't adjust my level. Right?
Yeah.
I really can't do too much with my hips at this point.
From the bottom, no, you can't.
I can't. So the only thing I have from wrestling would be grips. Collar tie. I can affect your vertical alignment with a collar tie, a wrestling grip. So I would say from where I am, the only thing I would take from that is my grips.
Got it. What are some other things you think when we've seen people from wrestling come into jiu-jitsu? Let's also set aside basic body awareness and stuff like that, because I feel like that comes with just experience grappling. I don't think that's specific. What are some other things you've seen wrestlers come in with, whether it's techniques or whether it's appreciation for mechanics, where they excel in jiu-jitsu? Where you think?
Well, I can tell you the wrestlers. Scrambles first of all.
Scrambles is good. Yeah.
Scrambles, people when they flip from hips up to hips down or vice versa. Yeah. Usually it's hips up to hips down with a wrestler. They usually don't flip to their back.
Getting to their knees.
The ability to quickly get to their knees. It's like they're like cats.
Yes.
Right? Cat always lands on its feet.
Yeah.
Wrestlers are kind of the same. Like when you're tangling with Joey.
Right? Yeah.
You keep throwing hooks in this, and he's over. Nope. He swivels his hips back underneath, and his feet land on the mat.
Absolutely,
like good wrestlers always find a way to get their hips and feet underneath them.
Absolutely.
So that's something, if you have a good sweeping attack game, and yet that's the only part of your game, and you're after a wrestler, you may have to have a plan B, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's something that I would think about. They bring. On the positives, on the negatives, they gas out because they're way too aggressive.
The pacing is completely different.
They go at it, they go at it out of the gate, 100 miles an hour, and then they're gassed. So
I think
they have to get used to that.
I think in a lot of wrestling techniques we're taught to rely more on explosiveness, timing, and aggression rather than technique. Yeah. I wonder if that's a function of the age or if that's just a function of you don't really have grips in wrestling the same way, meaning you can't grab the D. Yeah. So, and that translates into higher intensity, less energy efficiency.
Power double says it all. Blast double says it all, right? I mean, these are the words that describe these techniques, and it's, what do you get out of blast, right? I mean, that says it. So, that's some of the positive and negatives I think that they bring over, and it's not that it's bad, but it, like I said, the gassing works against you until you come up with a better plan, for sure.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But and also the landing on your feet works in your benefit until there are times where you really should go to your back.
Absolutely.
And work your guard, and you're staying too long on your knees, and that's gonna, if you stay too long on your knees and you come from a sport that doesn't have chokes, you're going to experience some guillotines.
Well, I think a lot of people, like there's a trend right now of wrestling up rather than playing guard.
Yes.
Right? Which I think is good to have, because I feel like that's something that jiu-jitsu is lacking for a long. What do we got on the plate, John?
A little cake here.
A little cake?
A little cake.
Was it carrot cake?
No. Carrot. Where's the off button? Carrot cake.
I saw a little red in there.
I don't put in my desserts as vegetables, buddy.
I saw a little red. What is that?
That's not red. That's angel food cake with white icing.
Oh,
where do you see red?
I don't even move too quickly over there. Okay, I see it. I got it. All right.
You're seeing red because you're a dessert guy.
Homemade?
No.
Publix?
2-for-1 sale.
Nice. They have good desserts.
They got great bakery.
They got great bakery. Great bakery, great fried chicken.
I got fried chicken in the fridge.
If anyone from Publix is listening and wants to sponsor a jiu-jitsu program.
The onion rings are top notch too.
I haven't tried those.
You're not as smart as I am.
Next time I go down, I'll have to check
Next
it
time
out.
we'll do the whole thing. We'll do the chicken fingers, the onion rings,
And
we'll do the cake. And they also have this in double chocolate.
That's the way to go.
It is.
You got to mix it up sometimes, though.
You got to.
You got it. Yeah. So there is the option of wrestling up instead of playing guard.
You know, I'm a fan of that.
I find that a good single leg off your butt to your knees is probably just as effective as a lot of guards.
The sit-up guard.
Sit-up guard.
As soon as you wrestle up, I think you have more surface area contact with your opponent, right?
Yes.
Your hips have an actual job on the lower leg, the foot.
Yeah.
So there's a lot more to use once you wrestle up to that sit-up guard.
I think also what's a little lacking in if we just played guard traditionally, like a guard traditionally is like you receive the pass. If that makes sense.
You've accepted it.
You accepted the pass. You're waiting for the passer to come into your guard.
Yes.
A lot of times you see this in tournaments, you see this in competitions, you even see this on the mat when we, because we choose one.
They lay down. They lay down and open their legs like they're giving birth.
And then you're just waiting for the person who's standing to come into the guard, right?
Yeah.
When you have the option of getting to your knees and wrestling, right, you can choose to take the fight from the bottom forward rather than just waiting for them. And that encourages the person on top also. They need to engage properly. If they're not worried about you standing up, they can take all the time they want to set up their grips, to set up their angle, to set up their position. If they're worried about you getting to your knees, they have to put forward pressure. But that being said, if all we do is get to our knees, there are certain times when it's probably not the best idea.
Not the best idea. You get caught.
You get caught. The other person might be much larger, and
they're a better wrestler. They're just going to smash you. They're bigger. They're stronger.
They're a better wrestler.
Yeah. The guy's got a top 10 guillotine game.
With how wrestling works and the mechanics of wrestling techniques and the positions, would you say it's strength and size differential have a greater effect than with what we experience with jiu-jitsu traditionally?
I think so.
Like playing guard, you can support defending a much larger person, whereas getting to your knees and grabbing a single is much harder against the size can make a difference much more quickly, I think, right?
Yes. You don't, because once I get to a single, I no longer have structure behind me to drive from, right? My back's on the mat. If I drive my hips, right? Because I'm coming from a platform and my hips, I can engage my hips and drive them up.
Yes.
I cannot do that against a larger person when I'm standing, right? If you're going to push me away and I don't have the core strength to drive forward, I can't do that. If I was against a wall, I could do it, but not freestanding.
Right.
So that's, that changes the dynamic of a lot of things once you don't have support behind you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. I think also there's an interesting translation where wrestlers, the body sensitivity they do build is great at applying pressure, but not necessarily point pressure. So I'll give example of point pressure is something like knee on belly, where you're only putting a lot of contact on one part of the body, and you almost want a scramble to happen from a position like knee on belly. You're trying to create a discomfort so the other person wriggles and opens something that wouldn't be open. Whereas in wrestling, a lot of the intention is to mitigate movement. To hold the person down in place.
It's all weight versus surface area.
Right.
If you take 100 pounds and put it on a 18 by 30-inch space, it applies so much pressure. You take that same weight and put it on your knuckle and drive it in, it's going to hurt.
Yeah. So what are some things you think, what are some techniques, let's say specific techniques in wrestling you think translate well to jiu-jitsu? Like if you had a white belt curriculum and you were coming up with or a blue belt curriculum, let's say, and you were coming up with a list of techniques, what wrestling specific techniques would you sneak in there and incorporate as part of your jiu-jitsu game?
Like you said from the beginning, that we call the vertical alignment. It's taking posture and make it more three-dimensional, right?
Yeah.
We're making the posture. I would definitely use that. I would use the angles, a single versus a sweep single, right? They're completely different.
Yes.
So that's when we're dealing with the angle. I would take that principle from wrestling. Level changes. That's everything in jiu-jitsu. So the three things I just mentioned are distance, level, angle. That's the principles for passing the guard. And that's principles for wrestling. And it's principles for so many other things that you can see. So distance, level, and angle.
Are there any specific techniques you think translate well from wrestling into jiu-jitsu?
Wrestling into jiu-jitsu, I think the most places for me it's applicable is half guard and side control.
Half guard and side control. Yes. Okay. Yes.
Those are the two positions, top and bottom, where I think that either having a wrestling background or learning elements of wrestling have the greatest reward.
Okay.
Can you see that?
I felt it. I've been meaning, I personally, as someone with at least a small wrestling background, I know that those are two positions I migrated to pretty quickly.
Yeah, from the back, whatever, even from the mount, they're not going to know too much. But I always find that half guard and side control, if you got wrestling, whatever you got from wrestling, it really works there.
I'll throw in turtle as well.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely.
What are some
referees? That's the referee's position.
Referee's position, yes, and it's also from a failed single leg or double leg, right?
Where from the front, it's a sprawl.
Sprawl.
Absolutely, I would give that one too now.
What do you think are some things that we shouldn't take from wrestling? Like, I'm not just talking about a wrestler who's coming into jiu-jitsu, but there is a trend of people looking at wrestling and taking techniques. What are the things that you think don't belong in jiu-jitsu at all that are creeping their way in?
Stalling.
Okay. Meaning just like holding the person.
Just holding the person because you can.
Got it.
Stalling, right?
Right.
That's a good question. What shouldn't come in?
That goes hand in hand with side control, right? Being able to generate a lot of pressure in side control. Just put people there and just holds them there, right?
Yeah, if you put them there, hold them there for a whole round. What jiu-jitsu was done? What did you learn? What did your partner learn? It's almost like it's a 5-minute round where you didn't get anything out of it.
Right.
You're just doing what you always do, squeezing, and the other person on the bottom just suffered. So who got anything out of that round?
Absolutely.
Right? So stalling, and on the flip side of the coin of stalling is just in intensity and aggression, like insane intensity of it's, you don't want to be all on the gas. You don't want to be all the way on the brakes.
Right.
You want to be in the middle or back and forth as you need them. But it seems sometimes wrestlers are that. It's like an all-out stall, or it's, 1,000 miles an hour.
Right.
There's no real controlled in between. And I think jiu-jitsu kind of lives in the controlled in between of those two areas, isn't it?
The nuance of it all, right?
The technique of jiu-jitsu lives between 1,000 miles an hour and death grip stalling in the middle. And the further you get from them, the higher level technique meets in the middle. So the very center of that is very high level technique.
Okay. You're making movements, but the movements are deliberate.
They're calculated. They're purposeful. and, accurate. So that's what we're looking for.
When we're thinking of a jiu-jitsu match versus a wrestling match, right? And we're talking about working from the feet, so feet to floor.
Feet to floor.
In jiu-jitsu, a lot of times we talk about cooking our opponent. Like it's very difficult to submit someone who doesn't want to be submitted. So half our job is to encourage the person to convince them that they want to be submitted, right?
Yes.
Whether that's, I mean, a lot of people think that it boils down to just a knee in their chest, but that's like base level. The reality is it's a level of discomfort, it's a level of fatigue, it's a level of psychological defeat.
They have to accept losing.
They have to accept losing.
At one point in the role, they're just going to accept, okay, I'm beat. And it's going to happen. I mean, that's all it is somebody relents in here and in here, right?
Yes.
They give up. And that's it. That's who wins.
In jiu-jitsu, generally, and we've talked about this prior episodes, where we don't always just take techniques. A lot of times we take the technique we want, we apply it deliberately, and that's part of working towards that and building that psychological pressure that the other person is, they're losing. Do you think that applies to takedowns as well? Or do you think takedowns, because it's so dynamic and there's so many things that can go right or wrong, it's best not to play in that range until you're on the floor?
Yeah. When you're on your feet, it's like kind of like all hands on deck. Like you gotta, you have to, I can equate this. My head understands it a certain way, but I now have to verbalize it so the rest of the planet can understand it. But you got to kind of, and I guess this is true in jiu-jitsu, you paint them in the corner a little bit with angle and level, right? And distance level, again, distance, level, and angle. You got to kind of walk them down a little bit, level, I'm looking for the low single, right?
Yeah.
So why would I stand up if I know I'm going down to the bottom anyway? And I got to wait till you screw up with your footwork and maybe switch your feet or rotate out or, try to turn away or something and try to, pick an ankle at that point. But that's what I'm looking for is like, I'm going to get low and I know my striking distance. And if I can get you to, back on a heel or I can see you got weight to one side, if your weight's on one foot, I know you can't move it. Right?
Yeah.
So I'm going to try and hit it. So that's all I'm doing is I'm trying to walk you around, move you. And I don't want to be in touching distance of you.
So
I don't want you grabbing me.
So I think, just to circle around, we discussed briefly about scrambles earlier on.
Yes.
And I think jiu-jitsu has a very specific relationship with scrambles. Sometimes we want to allow movement, but as the attacker, we want it to be very controlled, specific. It's kind of like corralling, when they do the, like with horses or bulls in the wild, they're getting them to run, but they want them to run and stampede in a specific place where they know it's in a canyon or something, and they know where they're going to go, right?
Where they're going to trap them.
They're going to trap them, right? So from the feet, because we're not dealing with the floor, like you said, there's nothing behind them. It's much more difficult to find places to allow movement where you can trap them. So as soon as possible, we want to mitigate them, put them in a position where, they don't have the ability to do explosive movement.
Yeah. Now, let me go one further.
Yeah.
When we're from our feet, is that just one big scramble?
I think so. I would say
it is, isn't it? There's no entanglement. There's no engagement. Right? Somebody's going to be on top. Somebody's going to be on the bottom at the end of it.
Even when there is, go ahead.
It's one drawn out scramble, isn't it?
Yeah. Even when there is entanglement, like let's say we're in the gi and we're doing judo grips and both people are grabbing each other, right? There's nothing preventing like a rotational spin.
Circling.
Yeah. There's always going to be some movement happening, which the other person can't prevent or control, right?
Duck unders. High crotches.
High crotches. One person drops to the floor and elevates, right?
Yeah. Sacrifice throws.
Exactly, right?
Right. So it's So when we're working from our feet, it is really one drawn out scramble, isn't it?
Yeah, no, absolutely.
I've never, I just was thinking about that. I've never really looked at it in that way.
Well, that's what my question was headed towards, is like in jiu-jitsu, we want to mitigate that as much as possible. I was just wondering if on the feet there is a place where we can kind of mitigate that, but
it's called sitting guard. But we don't want to do that because we're giving up more than we're getting.
right.
Right?
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to mitigate the scramble, you sit down. Okay, but do you really want to sit down? It's like we're on a scrambled floor and you stop, say, okay, I'll just go on the bottom of side control.
Right. I'll just
do
take
that?
control so you can take my back. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Right.
no, you wouldn't do that.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
Yeah, so that's kind of, to me, in my mind, that's giving up, right? We're not scrambling on the ground. I'm just giving up and accepting whatever bad position you're going to throw me in.
Right.
Right. That's, if I do that from the bottom, is that even grappling? Is it?
Not really. No.
Not really. So if we're from our feet and I sit down, is that grappling?
No.
No. So when you start the fight, one person's grappling, the other person's not. Ooh, got a big storm rolling in, I think.
No snow though.
No, it is 82 degrees. Of course there's no snow. But I mean, I don't know if you can hear it, the wind is picking up. And the cover just blew off the buggy. So, yeah.
Well, one other thing, like just to maybe switch it around the opposite way, because we are talking about feet to floor. What I've noticed is, and I've seen this with my students as well. When you're on the feet, the only thing you think about is grip fighting.
No. Footwork.
Okay, footwork.
Level.
What,
angle.
Once there's contact, I feel like the grip fighting is much more obvious.
Well, the footwork supports the grip work, right?
Yeah.
If I go to a crunch Russian and stay in front of you versus walking around
to the side. Yes. Yes. Right? Yes.
So, yeah, it does support. I think the footwork supports the grips. If you have, good grips, but you're clueless with your footwork, how good are the grips going to be?
Right. Right. And that's the same thing with what we experience playing guard, right?
Yes.
We can make contact, but if the connection doesn't have tension or if it's at the wrong angle, right? Or if
it's not going to work.
If the other person's grabbing us, we can circumvent some of the danger of the grip by changing the angle, changing the position, right?
Yes. Yes.
So those are some things that translate as well.
Is there footwork in guard?
Are we talking about the guard player? For the passer, for sure.
For the guy on the bottom, is there footwork in guard?
Yes.
Absolutely there is. Do a lot of people recognize that and talk about it?
No.
No.
I think the footwork, you're using the other person's body as the floor.
Yes.
The first thing that comes to my mind is if you want to put in a De La Riva hook, right? And you can't put a unless you have incredibly long legs. It's very difficult to put a De La Riva hook in square. You need to cut the angle.
Yeah.
And the way we generally cut the angle is by stepping on the other person to shift our body, right? That's the footwork. You're not moving the feet. You're using the feet to move the hips.
One arm bar. I put my foot on your hip, escape my head, and my other leg drives up high on your back and applies pressure downwards.
Right.
That's absolutely footwork.
Right.
I think it's everywhere. I don't think people really talk about it or recognize it because it's an arm bar. It's not footwork. Our feet are not on the ground. Well, your feet don't have to be on the ground to recognize that they have a job to do and they're doing something. Right.
I think that's a good perspective, and that translates, right? The grip is one, the connection is one aspect of it, but like we talk about angle and distance, creating that with the footwork to strengthen and to reinforce it is really important.
I'm going to defer to synchronized swimming, right?
What happens?
Their feet are not on the ground, but they have synchronized footwork, don't they?
They do.
Right. So we can say that you can have footwork without stepping onto the ground.
Okay.
Olympic sport, by the way.
Yes. Unfortunately, jiu-jitsu is not. I would say fortunately it's not actually from what I've seen with judo.
Judo, I mean, come on. The Olympics is, I don't know what it is anymore. It's a giant social media network. You know, breakdancing. I don't think that's breakdancing, but should it be in the Olympics? Yeah, I don't think so.
How when do you have any wrestlers currently in your watching full coming in?
One of my guys' son stops by once in a while. He's a high school wrestler, and he trains some no-gi jiu-jitsu. He's a white belt or gray belt or something like that. But he comes in once in a while, and his wrestling is getting really good. You know, I think he just turned 17, maybe 16 or 17.
As jiu-jitsu practitioners, what do you think some of our takeaways should be? Like, what benefits do we get when we have someone in the room that brings a strong wrestling background, if that makes sense? Because you need to learn to defend and mitigate some of that. So what do you think are some of the things that get cultivated when you're dealing with wrestlers?
It's just they put like a little relentless action on you. I'm not necessarily going to say relentless pressure or relentless. It's a combination of pressure, motion, movement. It's all these things. They just don't stop, kind of, in a way, wrestlers.
Yeah, right.
They just keep coming at you. So I think it helps our kind of quick motor responses and a little bit of our mental game. Like, hey, you can't get distracted by everything that's going on. Just focus on the fundamentals of what's happening, what's actually happening versus the Tasmanian devil on top of you, right?
Do you think in those moments, it doesn't necessarily just have to be a wrestler, it could be any kind of person pace. Yeah. Is it more important to think about not matching their pace and just kind of defending and weathering the storm, or do you think it's more important to tie them up and slow them down?
It's most important to play your game. Okay, if you have a fast game and they're moving fast, move fast with them. I'm not a fast game. I grind things down to a halt, right? So I'm just gonna either I'll get into my position and let them move, and as long as I know that my neck, arm, and ankles are safe, do what you want to do, right? If I know I'm safe, you can do whatever you want to do. When you're tuckered out a little bit and I engage, yeah, you're done. You're not going nowhere. And we're going to slow it down. We're going to play my game. We're not going to play your game.
Okay. All right, that's good perspective.
Yeah, but I never try to match anybody because, think of all the boxes I'd have to match. Am I going to match someone's size if they're 300 pounds?
No.
I don't care how much cake I bring with me. I'm not going to do it. Right? Am I going to match someone's strength?
No.
Am I going to match their youth? I can't make myself younger in the role.
Right.
I can only be me. So I need to do what works best for me. Chasing a 25-year-old around the mats, does that work best for me? No. I know that. Most people don't think about that, and they get all into the machismo challenge of things, right?
Yeah.
Well, if they're going to push, I'm going to push them back. Okay, but you're like 58, and you're on the couch most nights. Really? You're making your stand here? Then you're going to be out for 6 months with a, intercostal rib injury.
Yeah.
That's how it works. Because my most important challenge in a role is to leave safely. Right?
Yeah.
I need to teach tomorrow. I need to roll tomorrow. Do I need to butt heads with, a crazy wrestler and to prove who's stronger? No. Do I need to shut them down and let them know who the boss is? Yeah. Which one I'm going to be safer with? The latter. So, as you get older, you got to revise everything. You got to, take stock every year. I just did. I got my 2025 roadmap. I think we talked about that recently, our roadmaps.
Yes.
So I'm just going to follow my roadmap, make it through 25, start another year. Good jiu-jitsu, good techniques, minimal injuries. Minimal injuries.
Do you think a lot of the things wrestlers bring with them that they've learned even the flexibility they have in terms of back bends and bridging. Do you think a lot of that doesn't stand the test of time?
Well,
Meaning, like as they get older, a lot of those things don't follow them into their 40s and 50s.
all those things have a shelf life, right? There's an
Yeah.
expiration date on all of them. And a wrestler's bridge is way different than a jiu-jitsu bridge. They're going straight up.
Yep.
Where we cut the angle, right? So if you've been going straight up for 20 years, how quickly is that going to change?
Right.
Right.
Straight up and off your neck instead of your shoulders too, right?
Yes. Yes. So it's a lot different. We're not trying to, when I bridge, I'm not trying to keep from being pinned. I'm trying to move my opponent like a ramp and make space for my hips to come in.
Yeah.
Completely different than wrestlers do. We call them each a bridge, but they are completely different. And I don't think they're very interchangeable.
I think one of them is also easier on the body.
Oh, for sure.
That's so. Do you think that's accurate to say a lot of the techniques that wrestling brings over probably don't translate as well, even if they work in jiu-jitsu when you're 40, 50s?
Yeah, you can't, like I said, shelf life. Wrestling, I think, other than professional, wrestling is a young man's game. Right?
Professional wrestling, different set of tools.
Different set of tools, different age bracket. You know, you can take these things a little longer, but folk style, freestyle wrestling, there are expiration dates where it's like, yeah, you might be able to pull it off, but you might be in bed for a week and a half afterwards.
Right, right.
Do you really need to pull it off?
I think we should do an episode dedicated to professional wrestling because I think there is a lot jiu-jitsu can learn from professional wrestling.
Yeah. The figure four leg lock.
Figure four leg lock.
Yeah, the sleeper hold.
That's
Jimmy
right.
Snuka coming off the top rope. I can't tell you how many times that's been done in the jiu-jitsu class.
The camel clutch, I think, is underused in the jiu-jitsu world.
The cobra clutch.
The cobra clutch. That's right. Yeah.
And the camel clutch.
That's right.
That was the Iron Sheik.
Yes.
Which is like the opposite of a crab hold, right?
Crab.
A Boston crab.
Boston crab. Yeah.
Boston crab. You grab the feet and roll back. This one you put the shoulders up and.
We can dedicate that episode to our friend Eric.
Yes.
All right. Any closing thoughts? Anything you've been thinking about in jiu-jitsu? Otherwise, anything coming up?
We were starting to put together clinics. So if you're tired of the cold and snow, wherever you are on the planet, because there seems to be snow everywhere but Vero Beach right now, snow and cold. I mean, the panhandle of Florida is getting snow this week. We're not. We're 82. We're in good shape. So you want to learn some good jiu-jitsu and, get out of the freezing cold. Just jump online. We're doing 4-day clinics. We're doing private clinics where you can decide how many people and what the topics are. And you come down, you get a full-on private clinic of everything you want to work on. So
awesome.
So check the websites and social media. We'll be posting some dates and other things.
Very cool. Very cool.
How about you guys? What are you working
on? We are rolling out a self-defense program led by our karate instructor, Anna. She's been working on a certification for, I think, a year or two through a program over in Europe.
Oh, really?
She's been working with her karate and her jiu-jitsu in order to kind of make like a package that's, common sense with some practical techniques.
Okay.
Which I think go further than just, kick him in the groin.
Awesome.
Although I think kick him in the groin is a valid self-defense technique.
That's where I would start.
Otherwise, new year, new crop of white belts coming in, people with their New Year's resolutions. And
are you watching any TV shows right now?
Trying to think. I watched recently an episode. It's a show with Jeff Daniels. I think it's called The Old Man or The Old Guy. The Old Man, I think. He's like
Jeff Daniels or Jeff Bridges?
I think it was Jeff Daniels. Jeff Bridges?
Jeff Bridges was from Big Lebowski. Jeff Daniels was from Dumb and Dumber.
Jeff Bridges. Maybe it is Jeff Bridges, yeah.
He's like a spy, right?
Yes, he's like an old spy, retired spy.
That's Jeff Bridges, and the other guy I forget the other guy's name.
The guy from Third Rock from the Sun, I forget his name.
That guy, yes. Good. I saw that.
What
a
have
good
you
show.
been watching?
Saw a show last night. Made me think of you.
Oh,
Made me think of you.
what show is
Okay.
that?
It's Nobody Wants This.
Okay. What's the first of all, where can we find it?
Netflix.
Okay. And what's the gist of the show?
So we're a couple episodes in, very funny,
Okay.
well written, good characters. Okay. There's a girl, her and her sister run a very popular podcast, basically about sex.
Okay.
And she winds up dating a rabbi.
Okay, amazing.
The rabbi's he's a cool dude. He's
All right.
hilarious. He's hilarious. I think you would like it. It sheds some light on a lot of thinking like I'm sure the characters think like, how can I, she's not Jewish. How could she possibly be dating a rabbi?
Got it.
Right.
I'm checking it out.
Yes, you got to check. It's hilarious. It's hilarious. You'll probably get some of the humor we didn't get.
Okay.
But it's the term shiksa was thrown around a lot.
Yes.
See, you're laughing already.
Yes. Very cool. All right. That's a good recommendation.
Good show. Definitely, they're like 30-minute shorter episodes.
Nobody wants this.
No, I think it's Nobody Wants This. Yeah, Nobody Wants This.
Nobody wants this. All right. Very cool. Any notable actors in there?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Cool.
You don't know. I don't know anybody's names anyway.
Me neither. That's fine.
Yeah. So. Yeah, Nobody Wants This.
Awesome. All right. Is there any takeaways people should take away from this episode in terms of their training? We have a few more minutes. Just, do you think people should be intentional about some stuff, or just what we talked about in terms of level, distance, and angle?
You focus on that a lot, and you'll find the fundamentals inside that it's really everywhere in jiu-jitsu and not just kind of where you think it is. I keep finding it everywhere. And to be a little more open-minded about your jiu-jitsu, right? Just because that's wrestling. I'm not going to do wrestling. Yeah, why not? If it works, it's all grappling. If it works, it works. Or don't discard a judo grip, or all those drills I came up with. I got from watching kung fu movies, right? The sticky arms.
Yeah.
Of putting my hand inside the ring
for your hip escapes.
All the stuff, hip escapes. It works, right? I got my white belts doing this, and we put the belt behind the neck to do our bridges, right? So the hands never leave.
Yeah.
Muscle memory. So that didn't come from a kung fu movie, but it came from other things. But that's, you can find jiu-jitsu everywhere in life. So just keep your eyes open.
I think on that note, also to circle around for what we spoke about before, if it exists in sambo or wrestling or judo, your jiu-jitsu has to be able to deal with it.
Yes, right? Exactly.
We're talking about the white belt who does the weird thing. Well, when people come from other practices, whether
they do completely foreign things.
And your techniques have to be able to have an answer for those things as well.
Yes, you want to be very open-minded in jiu-jitsu, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
A white belt can make your game better. If you look hard enough, you'll find a way for a brand new white belt to make you better.
Awesome. Let's stay open-minded in 2025. Hopefully we'll learn a lot of new things.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome, guys. We'll wrap up the episode here. Hopefully no one's freezing their butts off too much this winter.
I know I'm not.
Otherwise, make it down to Vero Beach. Get a clinic on with Birdman.
Come on down. We got the beach. Everything's good. No complaints. Fresh seafood. Loving it. Loving life. Publix chicken. Publix 2-for-1 cake this week if you're in town.
There we go. All right, guys. We'll say goodbye over there. Take it easy. Keep training.